one of the biggest misconceptions in golf is wrist cock. And this goes both ways. Okay, so one of the things that we don't need to do massively in the golf swing is introduce massive amounts of flexion. We don't want massive amounts of extension. We also don't want massive amounts of radial deviation or wrist cock, which is this type of motion here. So we kind of want to do as little as you can, theoretically, with the wrists. Which then brings the question as to where club head speed comes from. I think one of the best exercises to help you sort of visually understand the wrist position is to grab an alignment stick, place it through the club shaft or underneath, and then pause when you're at left arm horizontal. And what we tend to see with the professional golfer is we tend to see a position that looks something like this. Now, if you want to practice this, can you see the way that I've placed another golf ball about a foot to the right of the one that I would be intending to hit? And you can see the way that the club shaft is pointing down towards that one. From here, I'm now going to lift my arms without increasing this wrist position, like so. Now, for some golfers, what they tend to do is they tend to think, right, I've got to do lots of angle like so, okay? And then the problem is if you increase this angle too much, what also happens is that you start to increase the amount of angulation on the back of the left wrist. And if you do that too much, then there's a possibility that you're going to open up the club face and the club will come down too steep. So the point is that we don't necessarily want to be, even as we come in towards this downswing, we don't want to be massively trying to increase this type of angle here. In fact, you want to kind of do the opposite, right? Which is a lot of golf instruction nowadays is more about trying to get the feeling of straightening arms to get the club head away from you. Let's say we agree on that. The question would then be, well, how do you generate speed, right? Well, you generate speed by the retraction of a movement, not necessarily by increasing the angle of something. So what I mean by that is if you're somebody who's trying to massively increase this angle here and then hold on to it coming into the downswing, this isn't going to be the way that you get additional force. What needs to happen is that we are going to start with an element of angle in the address position, and that is going to increase progressively as we spoke about into this position, and then we lift it up to the top. But then the question is, as I come down, what we want to do is we obviously want to get the feeling like this angle stays relatively maintained, and obviously it's going to straighten as it comes in towards this impact area. But the thing that's really generating the speed is the retraction. And what I mean by this is this moving back and behind me. So as this moves back and behind me, the faster my left shoulder moves back and behind me, the faster my left arm can be propelled towards the target. And that's the thing that is producing the speed. So if you're somebody who doesn't move this out of the way, and you're sort of trying to do lots of this and this type of movement, then what we're basically saying is that's not going to generate speed. You'd be better off trying to have zero wrist cock and then retracting that out of the way, and that's going to produce you more club head speed. So there's been a change in narrative in golf instruction, I suppose, because as biomechanics has become obviously more prevalent, we understand things much more, and we understand that there sometimes might be sacrifices. So instead of trying to increase this angle here to produce more speed, and arguably, you know, if you have more angulation here as opposed to less, there is that potential scope for more speed. But there's also, when you're putting it into context for most amateur golfers, I wouldn't suggest so, because I wouldn't say if you're somebody who's here, you're likely doing enough of this to actually get that moving through in the first place. What happens with most amateurs, you tend to get here and you tend to get stuck because you're not thinking about moving this. So there's no point trying to increase this angle until you've got that out of the way. See you soon.